So I am here with Lara Thornley Hall, and she is amazing. She believes in living beyond work-life balance, being able to not just have that cliche, if we're being honest, but actually like integrate it into your, I'm gonna guess, daily life, that you can integrate it into your daily life, not just weekly or monthly or quarterly. How do you go about integrating it to live beyond balance? I mean, that seems like an impossible task. How Tell me about it.
Well, Lily, I mean, I have to say, it's about survival, really. I mean, I'm not sure about your audience, but I have found entrepreneurship fucking hard, really. I mean, I have been very successful in corporate, VP of operations, and I'm a CPA and a PMP and a partridge in a pear tree, all the qualifications. But none of that prepared me for being an entrepreneur. So I have two companies, and everyone said, "Oh, don't do that. You've got to choose between them or you'll be splitting yourself." And of course, I couldn't choose, right? Multi potentialite, multi passionate. So one company is life coaching, one company is a mathnasium franchise. I've got a teen, a husband, a dog, all the things, right? Integration is survival, and it's bringing my whole self and all my passions together on the table rather than splitting myself between each little pit of my life and making them all compete against each other for my attention.
I think that is so relevant for two reasons. One, I always tell people, if you have to mutilate yourself, it's not worth it. If you have to cut parts of yourself off, if you have to try and contort to fit into the box till something dislocates, it's not good. And the other part is when you said, everyone said, no, 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 don't do it that way. I actually had that happen to me too. I started training to be a psychic spiritual advisor when I was 10 years old. And my first mentor said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, I want to change the world. I want to change people's lives. And they're like, "What are you interested in?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, energy healing and healing stones and tarot and astrology." And I listed all these things that I wanted to do. And she said, "No, you can't. You have to pick one. You're allowed one." What is one? One sounds unsatisfactory. That's what one sounds like. I couldn't wrap my head around, because then she said, "Well, you'd be a jack of all trades, but a master of none." And I looked at her and I said, "No, I plan to master all of them. I plan to be high king shit at all of them." And keep in mind, like, I was still fairly young, but I'm also going, I'm young. I have time to become an expert in anything I want to be, including my own life. And so those were two really relatable things that you said, where it's like, choose? What do you mean choose? What is that nonsense? I want it all.
Exactly. And when you put it all together, multi-modality, multi-potential, like when you put it all together, one thing informs the other and strengthens the other. It doesn't take away from. That's the whole point. That work-life balance concept, it's siloing your life into different pieces and it's making it compete against itself. But when you put all the things on the one plate and you move your energy around the plate, that's when one thing informs the other.
Someone recently described it to me as harmony. They're like,
Mm,
harmony is a
mm,
constant moving of energy, where balance is the scales, where it's like, okay, one thing has to go over to this, and then the other one has to go over. And so it's like, it's almost like this stagnant, like you're sitting here and you're trying to hold perfectly still so that everything stays in balance, where, like you said, it's moving. And if we're being honest, and the goal is to have your life evolve for the better,
right,
the goal is to move forward, the goal is to keep going, the goal is to not stop and become stagnant and sit
right.
there holding plates.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
point is to move. And so whenever people talk about balance, like, I get the concept of where they're coming from, but at this point, do you think it's an antiquated term and theory that people are trying to live in?
Exactly. I mean, I would absolutely call it a false dichotomy, right? Like the work and life are not two separate things. It is life,
Yep.
right? And that's really what we've got to look at here. And as you said, I mean, it's the flow of energy. What keeps your energy flowing? What keeps your energy building? And once you raise your energy, it overflows into everything.
Yes. And it's being able to look at it as your whole life. I don't like the idea of like, well, this is my work life and this is my personal life. And it's like, okay, but now you're going to separate your work life into like 15 different little subsegments and your personal life into 15 because you've got your kids, your own health, then you've got work, then you've got church. If you go to church, like there's all these things. And it's like, nope, instead just look at it as a whole. And where do you want the whole to go? And for me, like a big one that people takes up a lot of my time is self-care and health because I'm disabled. So that takes up so much more time for me than it does for the general population. So when people are like, well, how do you balance it? And I'm like, there's no balance. It's like there are crash days, there are good days, there are doctor days, there are, and something that I've told the viewers that are happening right now. So one, I have like a bandage on my arm from getting a shot that I have to get every few months. And so like my arm is sore today, but I'm also wearing a heart monitor, which is why I'm wearing a very high collared neck. And it didn't stop me from doing work. It didn't prevent me. It's like it is, oh, this is going to move here. So I'm going to move like this. And it's just being okay. It's like, I'll just change my shirt. I usually, you don't know this. I usually wear V-necks because it makes me look paler and I like looking pale. I believe that if I looked like a sickly Victorian child, just recovered from fever all the time, I would look fabulous. I want to look so pale. And so I try to show like, yes, I look pale, but I have a heart monitor stuck to me. And it's this idea that they're like, well, you can't do that and this. It's like, I can, but I'm going to change. I'm going to flow with it. So I'm going to wear a different top than I normally wear. That's totally fine. Is this the end of the world? No. And, oh, that's another false paradigm. Like you said, it's the end of the world. That there are so many things that are going to make or break, or if you make this one mistake, then either your business or your personal life or your love life, it's destroyed. How do you feel about that being forced down people's throats? That level of stress that it's like, if you make one mistake, like you can't make a mistake. I have made some pretty big fuck ups in my life. I got to say, not one of them ruined my entire life. Not one of them. And let me be clear, I include abuse and trauma in that. Not one decision that I have made in my entire life has ruined my entire life. I think that is a stupid myth. A stupid myth. How do you feel about the make or break myth?
Yeah. I mean, it's the fear that is cast upon us with that type of thinking, right? One thing goes wrong and you've lost everything. That type of fear really is just designed to keep us small and scared.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't stand for that, really, because we've got a voice and a message to give. And okay, so I fucked it up. Like, isn't that its own message and learning for me and everyone who sees it, even my teen, right? Like, actually, if I fuck it up once or twice, then when my teen does teen kind of things, they're out and about today completely on their own in Washington, D.C., if they mess up and they see that I've messed up and I've recovered, isn't recovery and healing the lesson that I want to give them? Not perfection.
Yes, because then we beat ourselves up and we're raised to beat ourselves up. And whenever I hang out with tiny humans, if I make a mistake, I will stop everybody and whatever we're doing, and I'll go, okay, Auntie or Miss Lily or whoever I am with, and I made a mistake. Here's what I did, and I'll say, do you want to know why I did that? And they'll go, no. And I'm like, because to err is human. And I want you to know that it's okay to be human. You're going to think the adults are perfect. We're not. We're not. We are making mistakes. We're just not willing to tell you. Because I have seen too many kids and teens where they make a mistake and their face falls and their eyes get wide and they're like, you no longer love me. Like, this isn't, and I'm like, it's a cop, but it was your from Spain and I dropped it. It's a cup. Was it on purpose? Did you throw it at somebody? Did you throw it at a living thing like a dog? No. I don't understand why you want me to be mad. If you want, I could muster up an oh no and pretend to faint, but that would purely be theatrical. Like that's how I view it, because if we have this unrealistic standard, but then we also present that we're not able to make mistakes in our business, in our life, in our health, I feel like we're not only shortchanging ourselves and beating ourselves up, but like we're hurting the people around us who like look at us as an example. I never want anyone to look at me and think perfect. I want them to go, that is the prettiest dumpster fire I've ever seen. Look at that glitter. Yes. I want someone to look at me and go, you hot mess. I like it though. I like it. It's very real. Because here's the thing. You can be a hot mess and still be fabulous. You can be a hot mess and still be successful. You can be disabled and still make money. You can all of these things that people don't think are possible. It's like, oh no, they're possible. You just have to get rid of all of those balancing constructs that I feel like they're balancing on the tip of a needle almost. You know, that it's like, okay, it's, yep, and a strong wind, let alone someone's opinion, is going to blow it over and ruin your life.
Right, right. And what it's really coming back to at the end of the day is identity. And the identity that we all share is, yeah, I'm human. And sometimes it's fucking hard, right? Like, I'm human. That's what I have in common with you. That's the first thing we have in common. So can we start with the being human? It can also be absolutely fabulous, right? Let's start with that connection of being human in all its glory. And then maybe we've got something on top of that to share with each other. But that's why we really have to be able to just do and be what we are without this terror of one little mistake and the whole house of cards comes down.
Yeah. So let's have a real moment. What's a mistake that you thought would ruin everything and didn't?
Ooh. Not breaking even in the first year of my business.
Oh.
I did not let my brain, this is the franchise business, I did not let my brain go there. Like, I just didn't. In my mind, we were going to break even in the first 6 months. And then by the end of the 6 months, we were going to start like paying ourselves back for the investment. And I couldn't have even thought or imagined the possibility of not breaking even in the first year, because that just would have blown my mind. I couldn't have even thought that. And here we are. And yes, all the trends are upwards, but they're still in the red part of the line and not in the black part of the zone, right? And you know what? We're okay. Like, we survived, right? And I would have thought in advance that I would have been a complete failure. And I've got to admit, moments along the way, that's crossed my mind a lot, right? Either in the middle of the day or in the middle of the night, right? I didn't think I'd be able to come back from that by just not being able to grow fast enough.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And you bring up such a good point of failure. And that fear of failure can either drive us to like push harder or keep us frozen in place. But everyone's idea of failure is so different, because you're right. Like, we are all human. And so we all know what fear is. We've all heard a car backfire and gotten a little nervous. We've all been startled. But how, like, I don't know how to even ask this question. Like, everyone has this fear of failure and everyone views failure differently. Like, I know several people who like, they view failure as in like millennials are following on social media. If you don't have 1 million followers, you're nothing. You're inconsequential. And then there are people in business who it's like, I should be making this much money a quarter, and they don't, and they feel like a failure. And then again, still there are people who it's like, oh, if I don't weigh this amount, I'm gonna. So living an integrated life, how to deal with this fear of failure? Any tips, tricks, insights, anything like that? Because I feel like the concept of failure, the perceived failure is what
Right.
people are getting hung up on. And again, it's a cup. You didn't fail. You broke a cup. It's okay. It was not attached to an organ or the life force of a puppy. It's okay. So how perceived failure, not even real failure, but the failure that we're scared of is our perceived failure. How do
It
you
really is. I mean, look, at the end of the day, failure is it's an illusion, right? It is that we created this magical thing called a goal, right? For whatever reason and with whatever guidance, and somehow we didn't reach that. Like, so fucking what? I mean, goals are important and all of that, don't get me wrong, but it's like, what did I learn? What did I grow in? Right? How am I different now than I was a year ago? And what is really important to me? And when I say failure is an illusion, I'm not just talking about out there, I'm talking about inside of me, right? Because first and foremost, I failed my view of myself, right? So maybe, just maybe, my view of myself was fucked up,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Oh, I love that. And it's this I view it, I always tell people, I'm like, no matter what, I want to fail forward. As long as I keep moving forward, I'm good. And it's weird. Some of the biggest failures that I've had, air quotes, is things that I'm like, I'm so glad that I know that that's not meant for me. Because if I didn't try it and remarkably fail at it, I would have constantly been like, but what if? And maybe I could make this work. But when it was an obvious failure, I'm like, okay, so we'll just take that off the list of like things I need to do with my life.
Mhm.
Um, getting a college degree was one of them. And I'm like, I love learning. I am not a college hoe. And so it was not, no, no. Mm-mm. And that was an easy one because it's like, yeah, I'm never going to try that again. So it's what are you learning? Not only like life lessons, but what did you learn about yourself? It's like, oh, I learned that I don't do
Right.
well with that kind of structure. I don't do well with I had someone tell me that you can never work for a boss because every
Mm,
boss I've had, I've hated. And they said, why? And it's like two reasons. One, you're disabled. And no matter what, no one's really going to understand the accommodations that you need. And so, because it's not like a wheelchair or anything, it's like randomly, I'll just be like, my energy will plummet and I'll need to be done for the day. And that's it. I don't have a choice. It's just done for the day. But no, they wanted X, Y, and Z to get done on Thursday. It's not getting done on Thursday. It may get done on Saturday. Um, and the other one was is that I'm so opinionated and know exactly who I am and exactly what I want. I am not the good little soldier who can be molded into something efficient. I am definitely the okay, so why do I have no, I'm not that's stupid. I'm not doing that. And it's not to be inconsiderate, but it's like no, I'm not doing that. It's not something that aligns with me. So running my own business just became so normal because I hated every boss I had.
right. Right. Yeah, I mean, for me, failure was the opportunity to dig deeper within myself. And this is where the integration came from. If my franchise had have broken even after 3 months or 6 months, like some others I know, not all of them, but some others, I could name names, right? I wouldn't have dug deeper into myself and really understood myself a lot more. I wouldn't have had to try so hard to bring all of my life together because it would have been like, oh, I got success, right? That's breaking even. I can go off and do some other thing. But to not break even yet, to fail my own goal meant I had to dig deeper within myself. And that's where the integrations come from. That's where the growth has come from.
Yes, I love that. I love this conversation and I know we could talk for hours. I have no doubt. If someone wanted to work with you or if they had questions about living an integrated life or
Mhm.
wanted to work with you on the myths and breaking the myths that because I feel like you are great at that. Not only integration, but you're like, oh no, that's a myth. You don't gotta believe that. No, failure's an illusion. Balance is stupid. Let's do something that's actually working. That I love that. How would someone contact you or reach out to you to work with you? Can you do a little plug about your info?
Yep. So my company is Thought Renovations, all one word, because we've got to renovate the way we think, right? Because our thinking's been molded in a way that doesn't help. Thought Renovations, one word.com. You can find it there at the website, Thought Renovations on LinkedIn and Thought Renovations on Facebook.
I love it. That is awesome. So Thought Renovations, and I am like, in my mind, I'm a very visual person, and I'm like, I do the bathroom first. And because I teach a class called House of the Soul, and every house in your soul has different meanings. And the bathroom, like when I think of Thought Renovations, I'm like, oh, how do you get rid of old paradigms? That's where the bathroom is in the soul. And so I'm just like, oh, I'd renovate that room first. I want me a low flow, efficient toilet. I want it to be nice and sparkly. So I'm even thinking like, oh, how would I renovate my thoughts? Like in a literal but metaphysical, but so I'm getting excited.
That's it. We renovate our lives one room at a time.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom and everything. For everyone watching, thank you for listening and watching and participating at your own leisure. If you liked this, please like it. If you found us entertaining, we appreciate it. If you want to see more, you follow, you subscribe, and you will get to see all this ridiculousness and the nonstop shenanigans that happen. Remember to be the hero of your own story and be offensively authentic.
Nice.